The Exposed podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and Podbean. Links below in the description.
You're exposed. You're exposed. You are exposed. Exposed, 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 exposed. You are exposed, sir. I'm going to expose you. Expose you. Oh my God, expose you.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is episode 10 of the Exposed podcast, and I'm here with none other than Tommy Tallarico, who is...
Where?
I don't know. I can't friggin' see him anywhere. But he is now the CEO of Intellivision.
Wow, I sound impressive.
Yeah.
Sounds impressive.
Especially among the other things. Man, I remember watching you on Electric Playground back in the day. It's so weird to sit here friggin' talking to you now, to be honest with you.
Why were you watching that crappy program?
Because it wasn't a crappy program.
No.
That was the... Dude, that was...
Were you watching it? Now, were you watching it on G4 or...
Yes, G4.
G4, yeah. There you go.
It's just so weird. It feels like another friggin' lifetime, man. That was so... I remember watching that and watching Call for Help and watching all that stuff. And
Leo Laporte?
Yeah, Leo Laporte, yep.
Yeah.
He has something on YouTube now. I forgot what the hell he's doing now, but...
Oh, he was always there. He was like back in the day, like before CNET and before... That was Leo, man. He owned that space.
He was great, too. I loved watching all that stuff. And it sucks because I feel like now there isn't a place for it, but back then it was so awesome. You know, I think YouTube has kind of filled that void. I don't think it would be relevant again. But plus G4 fucked it all up, too. The parent company just screwed that up and showed a bunch of Cops episodes.
Right, and The Man Show.
Yeah, it was just so... I don't know what the hell they were, but anyway, we'll talk more about that.
I know the answer, but I don't know if I should say it publicly, but because that's what happens when you get a bunch of people who aren't gamers running shit.
Yeah. And I think what they thought was they were just looking to get the advertising dollars for getting the views in, so they started showing cops and dating shows, and
right.
It just didn't work. And it sucked because I loved, especially when it was tech TV.
Yeah.
I loved tech TV, man.
Yeah. Attack of the Show, all that stuff.
So what you been up to, man? I think your trajectory has changed for obvious reasons, but what's been going on?
I know, right? I mean, in television's obviously the big focus of my existence right now. And we haven't talked in a couple of months officially. I mean, we go back and forth on Messenger when we have some funny shit to tell each other. But yeah, in regards to Intellivision, coronavirus, blah, 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 you got to bring it up, right? And so what it's done to us is basically, our ship date, 10/10/2020. That's our launch date. Has always been 10/10/2020, been that for 2 years. What happens is, because of the virus, because of the factory shutting down, kind of has this kind of ripple effect. So first thing that happens is everything starts to get backed up. Now, as of this moment, as I'm speaking to you here today on March, whatever the hell March day it is, we're still on track for 10/10/2020 launch. How it affects us right now immediately is that we're not going to be able to put out as many, to manufacture as many of the products as we want, right? Or as that we had originally intended. And by the way, not just in television, I'm telling you, Sony's going through the same thing. Why do you think none of these folks have announced? You think they're like, Microsoft, everybody's is going to be pulling back the amount that they wanted to manufacture. So as of this point, we haven't slipped, but I can tell you, and not just for Intellivision, but any electronics and other goods as well, that shit is going to be scarce this Christmas. Make no mistake, right? We're affected now. And even if coronavirus went away tomorrow, it's still already affected the manufacturing and distribution pipeline for electronics and other divisions as well, but mostly electronics. And the reason for that, Rich, I didn't know, all the ins and ends ins and outs of like hardware when I first started this in television journey about 3 years ago. Because, at the beginning, I'm like, look, I want to make this whole thing in the USA, freaking USA, go America and all this stuff. And that was kind of, again, not knowing all of the intricacies of everything. But the reality is, Rich, is that 80% of the stuff that makes electronics, and again, let's specifically talk about in television, can only be made
in China
and bought in China. And that's the issue. And so what I'm hoping happens from all this, and look, love them or hate them, but you've heard Trump talk about this, for the last 4 years, which is we got to get out of being so dependent on other countries, right? And he specifically always brings up China. So, I'm hoping that, maybe this whole thing, maybe there's a lot of positive to come out of this to go, you know what? We got to start bringing more manufacturing back into the United States or North America, Mexico, Canada as well. Maybe this is going to turn into a positive thing down the road where people start to like, wow, look how reliant we are
on China,
on a foreign nation. So much so, like I said, Rich, if I could, I wouldn't mind. I've always said this to all of our mechanical engineers and designers and all my people in-house. I said, look, if it costs a little bit more to get in the United States, I'm fine with that, right? And what you come to find out is you couldn't, if you wanted to pay triple for it, you couldn't because it doesn't exist. This stuff just isn't even produced and manufactured anywhere else except China. Now, Vietnam is now getting into, production stuff. You see India is now starting to ramp up. But the reality is that even those places, they just don't have the infrastructure in place like China does and has. So it's going to take them years. And when I mean years, I'm not talking 1 or 2 years. I'm talking like a decade to get on the same kind of level and numbers that we see, happening, in places, around China. So that's the one thing. The other thing that it affects us, the other way that's what's happening in the industry right now is that, bigger companies, like this is a big year for like mobile devices, like, the Samsung S20 just came out and all these new things are coming out. This is a big year for technology. This was like the cycle for technology, right? You see it in the video game industries about every 7 years a new console comes out. Well, now there's 3 of them coming out this year. 4 if you include Atari, but let's not include Atari.
Yeah, let's not.
So you got in television, Microsoft and Sony. And again, in television, we're not on the same level, production and manufacturing infrastructure as Sony and Microsoft are. But again, it just goes to show you like how if there was any bad year for this to happen, it was actually 2020 because of all the new technology and new things coming out in cycles. So what happens is all those big companies start buying up all the components, all the chips, all the, and that because now people are in a state of panic. And so we use a very, I don't want to call it a common chip, but it's a brand that everybody knows. It's a brand that's very, very popular, especially in smaller, handheld devices, tablets, mobile, whatever. And so all of a sudden now, our chips, which we could have got within 6 to 8 weeks, are now saying it could be 4 to 5 months, So it's like,
wow.
For the quantity that we want. It's like, yeah, we'll give you like 10,000 of them. But of course, because we can only give you 10,000 instead of 100,000, the price goes way up because, electronics and components are all about buying in bulk. So if you buy 1 million, it's like 4 cents. If you buy 200,000, it's 12 cents. And if you buy 10,000, it's 20 cents. So now they really got you by the short ones, right? Because they're saying like, well, look, you can't fulfill the order that you want. And because we don't have it, or we have to spread it around among all of our folks. oh, and by the way, when you only order it at this unit, you have to pay more for it. So it's like, no, so, you know,
Oh, God.
and so it is, you know, and it's tougher. Again, I'll be honest, it's tougher for a smaller company like us. We don't have $1 billion in the bank like all these guys. We don't have, you know, of the amazing infrastructure and this and that. We have a very specific, you know, budget and financing and all that stuff is, you know, planned out, and we've been hitting every milestone and this and that. So you come to these, you know, kind of barriers in the road, but that's the great thing about our team, about the love and the passion that we have, you know, and AAA rock stars that I've sniped from all over the industry and all over the engineering community to come together. And we're all just, it's like a brotherhood and sisterhood of people who get up every morning. You walk in the office and you just feel the excitement, you feel the energy. And so, and why that's so important is when things like this pop up, you know, okay, boom, you're traveling down the road, and we all know, every one of us know that every single day we're going to be hit with some kind of challenge. Now, the weak will give up, turn around, complain, you know, delay, whatever. Our team is always like, we know stuff's coming down the road at all times, right? We're always prepared, and we might not know the answer at this point, but what we do know is we're all super passionate, we're all super excited, and we're going to figure out when that barrier comes in our road, we're going to figure out, we're going to either jump over it, we got to figure out how to get around it, dig under it, or smash through it. There's always going to be a way for us to get through these challenges. So this is a big challenge. Like, this is a bigger thing. And so, but right now, like I said, the only way that it's affecting us currently is that we're not going to be able to put as many machines in the market this Christmas as we wanted. Now, if the worst case scenario is, geez, we only get 50,000 machines out there and everybody loves it and everybody's trying to get one and no one can find one and they're selling on eBay for $1,000 by Christmas. If that's the worst case scenario for us, hey, that ain't the worst thing in the world, Rich,
No,
right?
it's
I mean,
not.
you know, the Cabbage Patch syndrome, you know, Cabbage Patch Kids. So
If anything, it may actually make people want what they can't have. And, you know, it's not like
Right.
you're purposely doing it to diminish supply so that happens. It's just due to circumstances, that's what happens. So that may actually, you know, strange way work in your favor.
I know, right? I mean, you hate to say that, but we kind of say, you know, the other thing that kind of, if you think about it, works a little way, because we always try to make lemonade out of lemons. You know, the other thing that you think about too is that, like, look what's happening. You know, schools are closing. Everybody's being say, stay home, stay home, stay home. You know, if that kind of thing is still happening by the time we release, people are going to be pretty much sick of Netflix at that point. Like, here's a home system where everybody can play it. It's like, you know, this is the perfect thing to keep families who are at home busy and happy and you know, so we look at it kind of like that as well. And God forbid it goes all the way to, I mean, let's hope this is over within, you know, 30 days, right? I mean, that's the dream and hope, but it is kind of, you know, interesting. We keep saying, gosh, we wish Amico was out now because more people would be playing. And by the way, I don't know if you know, like, so we get all these reports, right? And watch the data. I got news for you. In China last month, online play went through the ceiling.
Of
Because
course.
everyone is staying home and more people are now playing video games because they're home from work, they're home from school. So the video game numbers are actually going through the roof. So again, you know, they always say that, like, when crises happen, one of the last things to get affected in like a down economy, entertainment typically either stays the same and even a lot of times goes up. Because people now, they want to feel happy. They want, you know, there's so much, like you look at the news today and it's all just like, well, like, oh my gosh, what's the next thing that's bad? Like, I'm a big Formula One fan, and I was getting all excited that Formula One, the first race was this weekend. Ferrari showed up in Australia a couple days ago, and they're tweeting and everything. And then they announced this morning they're canceling the race this weekend. I'm like, oh, so NBA, Major League Baseball is now delayed. So it's like wherever you go, and it's like all this bad news, bad news, bad news. So we decided, you know what? We're going to start coming out with good news today. We started today, and what we announced is that next Tuesday on St. Patrick's Day, Tuesday, March 17th, we're releasing a brand new trailer. It's a 3-minute trailer, and it's not me talking or any or fancy graphics or fancy title cards. It's 3 minutes of straight up gameplay from Amico, featuring 22 games, and about half of them I've never even talked about before or have even seen. So people are going to see 22 games next Tuesday, and we actually released a couple of screenshots. Well, we're going to release a screenshot a day. We released the first one today of our Intellivision auto racing game. It's really cool. It's like very stylized, For me, games, the most important thing about games is the fun factor. It's the playability, right? And I think in this modern day world, people get so hung up, or even developers and game publishers and hardware manufacturers, it's all about the graphics, because they got to how can we show you that this system or this game is better than the last one you played? And for us, it's like, wait a second, isn't the most important thing in the planet gameplay and fun? Is graphics become that important? And it has for some machines and the hardcores, but that's our whole philosophy is let's bring it back to what it used to be. In the old days when we made games, we didn't have the graphic capability. Just like the audio, we didn't have symphonies and things we could record. So you had to do something great with what you had. If it was bleeps and bloops, then you had to focus on the melody. If you didn't have a lot of fancy graphics, then you had to focus on the playability and the gameplay and the this and that. And that's kind of our philosophy in modern day. And I think it's different.
If you look throughout history, though, what you're saying has been proven true. The console that has sold the most units in general was never the most powerful.
Exactly. And we're seeing it happen now with the Switch, right? Yeah. Last year, the Switch outsold the Xbox and the PlayStation for the year, and Nintendo completely passed the Xbox in total sales. So there you go.
That is incredible. Who the hell would have saw that coming?
I would have bet against that. I got to be honest, right?
Me too. And think about it. The Switch came out in March of 2017, so it was basically 3 years and change after the Xbox One was released. So it did a lap around it
in half the distance.
Yes. It's insane.
In half the time.
The Switch is crazy, man. It just shows that, you can't. I mean, I thought coming from the Wii U that I'm like, oh, Nintendo's going to try to do it again. Here we friggin' go again. But the chipset was a smart move, and again, like what you were saying, is that it shows that you don't have to have the top tier hardware to do the sales numbers, because in all cases, virtually all cases, that hasn't been the case.
Well, it's funny because I'm on the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, and I've been on since the beginning, and I'm one of the judges, for the game. Not only game of the year, they give it to everybody, but I specifically do the audio and music category and things like that. And it's funny. I went to the awards show it was in February at the DICE conference in Las Vegas, and you see all these amazing games that came out last year, and what game won Game of the Year and Best Graphics and all this stuff. The Untitled Goose Game, It's like that, and it was up against Kojima's stuff and all this incredible things, right? It's like Kojima's. I already forgot the name of the game. What was
Death Stranding?
That's it. Thank you. What does that say? I already forgot it. But beautiful to look at, but I'd rather play the Goose Game as opposed to Death Stranding. That's just me personally. Everyone's different.
I'm the same damn way, man. I'm so tired of picking up a game. And look, I like story when it's integrated well, but when a game becomes a movie, I just can't take it. I can't. That's why I've sat down and tried to have played the Elder Scrolls Skyrim probably 75 times in 75 different platforms since it's released. Not saying it's a bad game. I know
everybody loves it. You got to appreciate it, right? You got to give it its kudos.
I can't sit there through the dialogue. I did
I'm with you.
That's my problem. That could be, but I was always that way. I remember back when Final Fantasy VII came out,
you're like,
my friend Tim brought it over. He's like, this is the most amazing game ever. And I'm just like, it's turn-based, and they talk a lot.
I hate turn-based games. Again, everyone's different. Me personally, I hate turn-based games. Yeah. But again, I appreciate them. I respect them. I understand why others like them too. So I'm not putting them down. Me personally, it's not my bag of tea.
Me too.
My cup of tea, my bag of tea. My tea bag?
Cup of tea. Hopefully it's not your tea bag. But no, I'm the same. Like, everyone's different, and people may think that, Rich, you just like the dude bro shooters. Everyone, I was always one playing beat 'em ups as a kid instead of the RPGs. But it's one thing I don't like is a trend where games are trying too much to become movies.
Yeah, and don't you see a lot of that? Like this last generation was like that.
Yes, and
I thought Zelda did it right. Breath of the Wild. Miyamoto's a genius, and that team over they're the geniuses, of course. But they put it in there, so it's like you cared about it, and you cared about how to get to the next thing and why you needed to get. But it was like, 5 hours of gameplay, and here's a minute of cinematic. Next.
Yeah, it didn't beat you over the head with it. It didn't beat you over the head with it.
Exactly.
I agree. And when I play a game like Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, which the gameplay of that was a little bit...
I haven't seen that one yet.
I like it, but it was disappointing compared to when they came out with the one in 2014. But it starts with such a long cutscene. I'm like, you're a first-person shooter, man. I just want to kill some fucking Nazis. I don't care.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was excellent voice acting and everything, but it's like it's too much like movies, and that's where I almost think developers are like, okay, we have to make something next gen. We got to make something AAA, and they overthink it. I think is what the problem.
Well, you saw it happen with one of my favorite game franchise designers over in Japan. The guys who did Eco, right? So like Eco came out, and I'm like, oh my god, this was so awesome. And then the follow up to that is Shadow of the Colossus, which was even more amazing even than Eco. And I was like, oh my god, and I was so excited for Last Guardian. And I'm like, I can't wait for The Last Guardian. And then they delayed it, and then it came out, and then it was off. And it took like whatever. And I finally played it in the anticipation, and I'm like, and there's the storyline drags out, and the controls aren't as good. And it's like, oh, no, what do you do? Like everything that made the first two games why I enjoyed them, it kind of went away from that, And I was like, no. It was kind of like what Nintendo did with the Wii U. It's like, here's all the great things that the Wii had. Everybody could play. It was very simple. Everything's about multiplayer. And then it's like Wii U. First of all, why'd you call it that? Dumb idea. Everyone thought it was an extension.
Including Reggie. Yeah. He didn't like it either.
Yeah, exactly. And he was correct for that. Reggie, you mean that new GameStop employee?
Yes. So weird. We could talk about that too.
You know what? Here's the deal. If anyone can help GameStop, it's probably that guy. So I hope he
Me too.
I hope it works out, But anyway, and then they came out with the Wii U, and it was more of like solitary play, and it's like you did the exact opposite. What the hell you think? But anyway,
but the thing with the Wii U too is that it was so poorly marketed. I remember after a couple years after that system came out, it was in my apartment. I remember having friends over, and I remember she said to me, she's like, "Oh, what's that thing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's the Wii U." She's like, "Oh, is that an add-on for the Wii?" And this is a couple years after the console. They marketed it. Wasn't a bad system, but they just marketed it so damn poorly.
Yeah. Well, it was tough too because, if you wanted to play, because with Amico, we always talk about how everybody has their own screen, and a centralized TV, right? And that's, take a game like Texas Hold'em. Everybody's got their 2 cards and the flop is on the screen. It's like, wow, you could do so many cool games like that. And with the Wii U, if you wanted to buy another controller that had the screen, it was $179, right? So
I don't even think it would work. Would it work with? I only think it could work with one of those controllers. I thought. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, that makes it even worse. I mean, that solidifies
right?
your point even more.
That you wouldn't even use it at all. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, we're excited. We're full steam ahead here. If things get worse, then things are going to get more scarce and whatever. But you want an exclusive? I want to give you. I got to give you exclusive, some kind of exclusive. Review Tech USA exclusive here. And I haven't told this to anyone because it's going to be in our press release. So I told you we're doing the trailer is on Tuesday, March 17th. And then we're also releasing a press release. We're doing a press release as well to go along with that. And the one thing that the press release is going to say, and I'm kind of saying this because it ties into everything we were talking about before, which is what we decided to do. So we did this Founders Edition, a pre-sale, pre-order of our Founders Edition. And did you see how many I did? I did 2,600 of them.
For the OGs, they'll know what that's about. I didn't even think of that until now. The OGs will know what that means.
So yeah, I want to poke a little fun at our friends at Atari. It was originally called the Atari 2600. So and of course, Atari seems like they're having all sorts of Atari VCS issues now, and so you hate to see you hate to see it. But anyway, so we did 2,600 Founders Editions. And we sold them at $299. They were a premium unit because we did the special limited vintage wood grain editions. But we also added a whole bunch of stuff. We added a $50 RFID metal laser cut card, which when the system comes out, you can tap it on the system and it puts $50 in your digital store. We did a signed lenticular poster. So the whole team that created the hardware is going to sign the back of the poster, and it's like the Running Man. I individually hand number and sign all 2,600 units on the bottom of the machine. We did a Founders pin, like a wood grain and gold Founders Edition pin. We did a Founders Edition patch. I threw in a bunch of CDs, like physical and digital CDs, like the Earthworm Jim soundtrack and all this stuff. And so it was a premium product, $299. We did 2,600 of them on sale. Rich, they sold out in under 5 hours. So, because a lot of people were like, oh, we don't know. Everybody likes, says nice things about it online, but will people really put their money where their mouth is? And what we did is, because I wanted to be fair and I didn't want it to seem like it was some Kickstarter crap. So what I did was we said, look, in order to get yours, to reserve yours, you put $100 down, which is 100% completely refundable at any time. Because we needed to have people like commit to something. Because if we said we're doing 2,600 and they didn't have to put any money down, then people could have I want one. It's not like a real serious commitment. When we have to answer to like retailers and investors and all this stuff, it's like they want to see real numbers and real commitment. So it's like $100 down. That's a real commitment to somebody. But again, 100% refundable at any time, because I don't want you to think we're like, taking your money or using your money. You get it back whenever you want. So that was that. And that was very successful as the end of January. But here's an exclusive I want to share with you. On Tuesday, we're announcing that we're going to be doing a VIP pre-order that's launching on March 31st. And we're going to be making 3 of the consoles available, including the vintage wood grain, the black one, which we're calling graphite black, and then the third one is the white one, which is we're calling it ivory white. And we've actually changed this is all exclusive stuff right now. I haven't mentioned to anybody, but we've actually changed the sheen and the paint on the black and the white ones. Because I used to call it obsidian black because obsidian's very shiny, and so we had this like high gloss black one, and it was so funny. That's what we were planning on doing, the high gloss black and the high gloss white. And then one day we were, because we manufacture a lot of them just by hand, just to like for our test units and stuff. And one of our mechanical engineers, he just kind of spray painted it, and he was out of like white gloss, and he bought the wrong color paint, the spray paint, and it was a white matte. It was a matte finish. And so he like sprayed it, and it looks glossy. And then after a while, he brought it back inside, and he's like, "Oh, damn, it was out." And then we put it together, and we're all sitting around there going like, "That is so freaking cool."
It looked
like
good.
we actually like that better than the gloss. So this was like about a month ago. We haven't told anyone this. So we changed the color. We're like, okay. We went and we got a different kind of plastic and a different kind of sheen on it, and so we went with this completely matte finish, and then we're like, wait a second, let's try this. I wonder what the black one would look like in a matte, because all video game consoles, they're always shiny, it's gloss, PlayStation or whatever, we're like let's try a flat matte black. And so we're like, and then it has like this gunmetal around it. So it's like a two-tone. So it's like this flat black with it. And we're like, oh my God, this looks even cool. It's like a slate kind. It looks so cool. So anyway, so we changed that. And so anyway, yeah, so we announced that we're doing a special VIP pre-order, and we're launching that on March 31st. Now, it's not going to have any of the same stuff that the Founders Edition. The Founders Edition was a special thing. $299, like I said, it's $299. It had like $400+ of value in it. This one's going to be a lot less than that. And the price is going to obviously reflect that as well. The pre-order price is going to reflect that. And yeah, but we're going to add a bunch of new VIP stuff. And so, yeah, we're announcing that on Tuesday, which will be available on March 31st. So it's interesting, all these kind of little, as you're making the hardware, all these things that kind of, pop up and kind of change on the fly from mistakes.
Kind of just kind of creep up through the process. So you got to explain to me with as much as you can explain. My biggest, I guess you could say, concern is the controller with a platformer like Earthworm Jim. How the hell is that going to work where it's comfortable and responsive?
You mean one of these? You mean one of these, Rich?
Yes, please show it, because
that's one of these. It's got a little Amico carrying case that we're going to have available. Ooh. So this is a, oh shoot, I hope it's plugged in. Yes. Okay. So first of all, there was something you said there. This is the controller working. You see the screen. I'll go through some stuff with you. So first thing you said there was a side-scrolling platform game like Earthworm Jim. So what makes you think that 25 years later, the same amount of guys are going to do a platform game?
I don't know. Because I'm just assuming.
Well, here's the thing. When we all did Earthworm Jim back in the day. Now, if you think about Earthworm Jim, the first two, 1 and 2, because we didn't do that shitty, horrible third one. We did 1 and 2. And if you think about Earthworm Jim as a game, there were platform levels, but there were also, like the Andy Asteroids level where you're on a rocket. We had all these little mini games. We had the bungee snot thing where you were bungee jumping and trying to hit the guy in the wall. We had a lot of different gameplay elements, but when people think about Earthworm Jim, they think, rightfully so, because it was the majority. They think of Earthworm Jim 2D side-scrolling platform game. But the reality is, when we were all sitting down and designing Earthworm Jim and figuring it all out, we wanted to do so many amazing things that we couldn't, because we just had the technology of a Genesis and a Super Nintendo, and that was so a lot of the stuff was 2D. So all of our best ideas never made it into any of those games. And so when the team got back together after 25 years, and we got together for the first time. When was that? Back in, it was about 6-8 months ago, and we spent the whole weekend together. We rented a big giant mansion on the top of a mountain, and it was just, the first night was all just catching up and talking about the old times. But by day 2 and day 3, we were just the ideas. Oh, remember we were going to do that? Yeah, we can do that now. So we've literally been waiting for a system like Amico to come into existence so that we can do the Earthworm Jim game the way we really, really wanted to. And so, everybody, doing multiplayer stuff, again, back then, we couldn't really do multiplayer. There was no online stuff. Well, we were always about couch co-op, but it's like couch co-op for the Genesis with 2 people, right?
Yeah.
Well, now we can do as many as we would like, or whatever. So the ability that everybody has a touch screen, the ability that everybody has a microphone and a speaker in their hands, that's something very interesting. Think about that for a second. A video game system where there's a central screen and everybody has a speaker and a microphone. Think about some of the ideas. So, and this is the type of stuff, Rich, that like from a game design standpoint, the things that, that we're coming up with, not only on the Earthworm Jim team, but all of our developers, we have over 40 games in production right now, and every one of them has something different that no one's ever seen before or played before because of the technology. But to get back to your original question, you see, actually, I'll share with you some of the upgrades. Now, the reason gray is because these are, the shells are 3D printouts, right? So That's why it's gray. But one of the big upgrades that we made, Rich, over, about 4 or 5 months ago, is that we decided to go with a capacitive touch screen instead of a resistive touch. So a resistive touch, those screens are the ones that you kind of have to push down a little bit. They're not as accurate. They're older technology, but they were a lot less expensive. And so it's like, well, let's try that, because our whole thing was we want to try to keep the price at around $199, under $199. We got to try to do under $199. And then it's like, you know what? Let's try the capacitive touchscreen. Now, a capacitive touchscreen is the same exact screen that you have in all your mobile devices, right? Except for us, and you can see, but this, if you can hear that, it's like a plexiglass. So if you drop it, it's not going to break like your mobile device is going to break, right? But I want to show you this. Oh, you can see that's the. Can you see that little blue ball?
Yes, I see it. Yep, I see it.
Yeah, it's moving around. It's showing you the gyroscope and the accelerometer working. It's just our little demo. But I want to show you this. So this screen here, there's some bad reflection, so I'm going to try to get close. But do you see that? Okay. You see how look how smooth and clean that is. Like no matter how fast I go, boop, 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 boop. And I take it, boop. And it's so silky smooth and clean. And that, and I'm barely touching it too. Like if you can see from the side, I'm like just barely, so it's like, perfect. And so when we saw this in and we put it in, we said, you know what, we have to go with this. So we started upgrading, all of the parts. Now here's something else. You'll see all of our buttons light up. So you can see that I got it set on blue right now, but you can see it light up. And then the disc lights up as well.
Now, is a disc also a directional pad?
The whole thing is a directional pad. So most D-pads have 8 positions, up, down, left, right, and then the diagonals. So every single D-pad that you've ever had has 8 directionals. But watch this. I'm going to show you here. It's going to light up, but see if you can see on screen. See all those little dots?
Okay.
We have 64 directions. So our D-pad has 64 directions. And you see that green bar on the top? What's happening is the harder I push, it detects that as well. So what we've done is combined analog and digital together. So it has pressure points as well, the harder I press down. So when you talk about, let's talk about a a platform game, for example. Well, normally you would play a platform game. You'd have your left thumb on the D-pad, and then either the shoulder buttons or buttons here on the face, right? Mm-hmm. The great thing, so if we wanted to do a platform game, you hold it like this. And now you don't just have an 8 position, you actually have a 64 position. So when you're doing games like think of a game like Echo the Dolphin, for example, or the original Earthworm Jim, when you only had 8 directions and you could only fire up, diagonal, left, down, that was the only way you can fire. Imagine being able to now fire in 64 directions, or if you're a dolphin swimming, how you can kind of, make those sweet, really nice curves and things like that. And now analog sticks are very much like this as well, but analog sticks, they jut out. And we did a lot of market research. And when you put dual analog stick, like take my dad, for example, you put a PlayStation 4 or Xbox controller or even a Switch controller in my dad's hands, he has a panic attack. It's like, oh, there's so many buttons and these sticks jiving out and this, that. And then, what's Sony's big announcement? Hey, we're going to add even more buttons on the back. It's like, yeah. So you got 2 on the top, and then you want 2 more back here, and then there's more. Anyway, and I love Sony, so I don't want to seem like but it's just funny. The mentality of hardcore gamer is let's, or the companies that cater to hardcore gamer is let's do more graphics. Let's do more buttons. Let's do more. And again, that's cool for a lot of people. But boy, you're just the average gamer, because think about this, 3 billion people play casual games every day, but there's only 200 million hardcore gamers, right? So that's how it's like 7%. 7% of the people who play video games, only 7% are hardcore gamers who are playing on consoles.
What was the number you said for how hardcore gamers in terms of how many people?
200 million. Okay. So think about that. Add up PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, right? So, the numbers on Switch are about 55 million. PlayStation passed 100 million. You got about, I think, 30 million Xboxes. Tons and tons of PC gamers, and of course there's crossover. Like you're a perfect example. You're one person, so but you probably do PC, you probably do Switch, maybe PlayStation, maybe Xbox. So, but if you add up the number, that's what the statistics tell us, is that there's 200 million people on the planet Earth who consider themselves a hardcore gamer, meaning they play either PC, Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch. 200 million people in the world. 3 billion people play casual and mobile games every day. It's insane. And that's really our target audience. That's the audience that we're – now, do I think that hardcore gamers are going to buy our system? Absolutely I do. I really do. Now, they're not going to buy it instead of a PlayStation 5, but this might be a great secondary machine for them. That, because we're all about couch co-op and group play and simple, easy fun. So when their non-gamer friends come over, or maybe their family comes around for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, this is the machine they'll pull out, just like we saw with the Wii. Everybody would, all the hardcore gamers, when their parents or people, non-gamers came over, they weren't like pulling out the Xbox, well, maybe for Just Dance or something, but you know what I mean? Like everybody was on the Wii. Oh, let's all play Wii bowling. And it was simple, easy fun. So that's kind of, that's what we're going for. So I think we're going to get some hardcore gamers as well. We're not going to be marketing to them. Our go-to-market strategy is more about like, the moms, millennial mom, young moms with kids. Because when you think about it, Disney's biggest license ever is Frozen. How many Frozen games were on the home consoles?
I don't know.
Switch, Xbox, PlayStation. How many Frozen games were there? I'll tell you, Rich. 0. Not a single one. What does that tell you about the state of the video game industry? And the only Frozen game that ever came out was on mobile, and it was a match 3 game targeted to parents, not 10-year-old girls, targeted to parents so that they could, suck as much money out of you as possible, right? The only Frozen game, and that was their biggest franchise ever, right? And that goes to show you. So like how crazy and how different the industry has become. So yeah, you can do that. Now, other games, you're going to love this. Other games, because remember, we have a gyroscope accelerometer in here, so you can hold it any way you want. So I just explained how you could do you could do a typical, side-scrolling type game if you want. Now, let's take a game like Missile Command, Centipede, Pong, stuff like that. Now, those games, you had a roller ball, right? Missile Command and Centipede, right? Now, have you ever tried to play a game like Missile Command or Centipede with an analog stick or a D-pad? It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it is.
Absolute nightmare. Can't do it. Unplayable, right? But what if now I've turned this around, so now my left thumb is on the screen. Imagine playing Missile Command, and wherever your thumb is on the screen, that's where the reticle is on the big screen, right? So now, or Centipede, you're controlling like this. Or if it's Pong, you're going up and down like this, right? And so now this becomes the input device. And by the way, remember you have the big D-pad? Well, guess what? All of a sudden now it's one big button. Or it could be a directional button. Like for Missile Command, if you want to fire from the center, you press up. You want to fire from the left, you press left. You want to fire from the right, you press right. And now boom, boom, boom. And you know what I mean? So now it's like turned into something totally different. But wait, there's more. A lot of games, again, let's say you're playing a card game or a dice game, right? Where you want to hold it up like this because you got the cards here. We have a dice game, and we're showing the big demo on Tuesday as part of our trailer. We're doing a dice game, and what happens is, again, everybody has a controller, everybody has a screen. So you see your dice on the screen, and so you can shake the dice. And again, it has a little speaker here, so you hear the dice shaking in your controller. Now, remember, everybody who's sitting there, and don't forget, you can hook up your mobile device, and up to 8 devices can be connected to the Amico at once. So if you so imagine you have 4 or 5 friends over, 2 of them have controllers, other 3 are on the free downloadable app, right? And everybody can be shaking the dice just on their own screen. And then when it's
I think
then
I
when
saw
it's
a
my
demo
turn,
of you doing that. I think I saw
What's that?
You had a demo at it was on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it was on the YouTube page, right?
Yeah, it was
You're
pretty
going to
cool.
see that in action in the game. And what's cool is you throw it up on the screen and the dice go all over the place. So we did it. You saw the demo, right, on our YouTube page. You're actually going to see the game in action a little bit on Tuesday. It's still early, but it looks really cool. And then so that's a game, games sometimes like this, sometimes like this, sometimes like this. But wait, one more to go. You see this dangling here?
Yeah.
Right? So now when you hold it this way, because this is now, you can use the disc, to like throw things. So think of something like bowling or cornhole or shuffleboard or darts, those kind of things. You can hold it like this, and with the disc, the disc movement like this, or sometimes you can hold it like this, or you can hold it like this, like the trigger. That's kind of like how the old Wii, you kind of have that like little trigger action going as well too. So this is a thing, like, it's really it's really a diversified thing. And again, you get 2 of them. It's the first video game system in over 20 years, past more than 2 decades, where you have come with 2 completely separate controllers. And look at these things. These aren't just like some little plastic things. Again, the disc, the speaker, the microphone, gyroscope, accelerometer, color capacitive touch screen, force feedback. Oh, look at this. wireless charging.
Yeah,
Boom.
I see. Yeah, you did that. That's been around for like a while in terms of you advertising that. That's pretty cool.
And Rich, the whole thing has RFID in the entire system. So that, including the controllers. So that means I can take my controller. I go to your house, I tap it on your machine, and not only does it automatically connect to your machine, but we can also now play all my games on your system. Because again, we want to break every single video game mold that's out there, because a lot of companies, they don't want you to share. They don't want you to share because they want you to, get that other 60 or 80 or 100 now dollars out of you for their thing. We're like, well, wait, we want people to share. We want people to show the experience. All of our games are $9.99 or less. And if you get shown a game that you like and I leave, now you can't play it once I leave because I need my controller to play my machine. So it stays, the game is like on your hard drive, but you can't play it. But if you enjoyed that game, what are you going to do the second I leave? If you liked it, you're going to buy it yourself, right?
Yeah.
So why do I have to worry about, trying to suck as much money out of people like all these companies do, especially the mobile companies, right? We don't have any in-app purchases. We don't have any in-app advertising. We don't have any loot boxes. We don't have any, paid for DLC or any of that stuff. Screw that. You buy a game and that's your game forever. I mean, we don't need to try to suck more money out of you. You either like the game or you don't like the game. You either buy the game or you don't. Remember those days, Rich? Boy, what a freaking concept.
Yeah, you just played the game and you didn't have to worry about getting DLC. Well, that's an interesting thing, though, where you could literally just bring your controller to someone else's console, tap it, and play the games. It's almost like a free advertisement for you for them to buy it. That's
how I look at it. It's like, and again, if the games are great, and I know they will be, then yeah, it's like we're creating our own, marketing street teams, if you will. Our biggest advertisers are going to be our audience talking, because that's the thing. A game system like ours, again, I don't have I'm not drinking my own Kool-Aid in regards to, and television is just on the same level as Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. No, we're not. We're not even near that. Those are billion-dollar companies, right? Yeah. Nintendo's a $40 billion company. Sony and Microsoft, hundreds of billions of dollars, right? We're like this little startup with like 40 people in the office and like 300 outside, developers and other people working on games for us, right? But we're really smart and we can make decisions on the move, and we have all these, cool ideas. So, that's the thing. We don't need to do that other stuff that everybody else does. We don't want to. We want to be different. And we don't have $1 billion of marketing budget. So the more we understand and know that the best way people are going to find out about Amico is going to be by people telling you about it. Oh my gosh, I have this thing. Or you go over somebody's house and you play it and you have fun with it. Now, that being said, we have a great go-to-market strategy. And it's not about like, oh, let's get Ninja to talk about it on YouTube, or not YouTube anymore. It's more like, like we're sponsoring the Mom 2.0 conference, the Mom 2.0 summit, where all the mom influencers come in, and we're the main sponsor. All the, little kids who like, some of these kids on YouTube, they have like, 10 million followers and they just open up toys and stuff, like it's crazy. But mall tours, in-store things. So like when you go to a mall and you can say, hey, come on in and play, and boom, you play it right there and you're right outside of GameStop, and come on in and get one, So we have to do a lot of different tactics. Oh, and by the way, these are the same tactics that the Wii used. So, the Wii, you couldn't just put a Wii on a billboard. You had to get it in people's hands and then watch the word of mouth spread. And the reason we know that is because all of the amazingly talented women who launched the Wii at Nintendo, Perrin Kaplan, Kelly Horner, all those folks, they left Nintendo after the Wii. So they didn't even have anything to do with the Wii U or the Switch. And now they're working with us. So, so we know. Yeah, so so that's something that was really important. And also, we have a brand new, she started a few months ago, but our internal VP of global marketing, again, I try to get the best of the best in the industry. She came from Mattel, and she was the head of all the Disney franchises at Mattel for marketing.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, who do we try, who do we want to get to market to? That's the crowd we're marketing to, is the ones who are, again, toys, kids, families. That's our main thing. And when you think about marketing video games, you never really think of families too much. Nintendo does some of it, right? Nintendo will show some of it. But really, Sony and Microsoft, don't spend a lot of money trying to market to families because it's not really their market.
No, not at all.
There was an article that came out yesterday where someone higher up at Sony was saying how they're totally embracing single player narrative experiences. That is their main, the stuff that we said we hated before. They're all about the narrative single player. And I'm reading this article going, awesome, good. You go with that. Because we're the exact opposite. Yes, every single one of our games has a single player mode, but every one of our games has couch co-op versus cooperative modes, this and that, and that's where the real fun begins. So I think we have our own little, niche, and we have our own little road, and we're going to stay on our path. We're not going to try to compete with any of those companies. We're just doing our own thing, simple, fun, easy, affordable. Boom, let's rock and roll.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens later this year with everybody, including you. But it'll be interesting to see what I know the audience that you're looking for. It'll be interesting to see what audience does come to the Amico because it may be a bigger one depending on the games that are out there.
Well, I know it's a bigger one, but I'd sound arrogant.
Did you say you would sound arrogant? You broke up there.
Yeah. I was going to say, I believe that as well, but I would sound arrogant if I told you that now. because I know a lot of stuff we haven't announced yet, and we were going to have a big announcement at E3. That didn't work out for us, but we're still going to do some fun stuff around E3 with social media and streaming and stuff. So we're trying to figure that out now. But one of we haven't even start to announce some of the amazing partnerships that we have with worldwide known amazing companies that we're going to get the word out. And again, these are companies and these are things that most video game companies, especially hardware ones, would never, be partnered with, because it's not, again, let's take the Disney Frozen thing, right? Disney Frozen, and I'm not saying we're partnering with Disney. I mean, we're, talking, but what I'm saying is that it's that same thing where Disney Frozen, why didn't they put it on PlayStation? Why didn't they put it on Xbox? Why didn't they at least put it on Switch? They didn't do that, right? And so it's that same kind of thing. There's so many companies out there that we know are amazing companies, amazing things, amazing sports licenses and things, and relationships that typically the video game, because these are family things. And most hardware companies, they go for their hardcore audience. That's their bread and butter. That's where they make their money. So there's this whole, here's something that's going to blow you away. If I asked you, so Rich, the video game industry is a $150 billion industry. $150 billion. To give you an idea how big that is, the music industry worldwide isn't even $7 billion. So video games are a $150 billion a year industry. Now, this is going to blow you away. You're not going to believe this, but I'm going to tell you anyway, and you can fact check me, and if you get all the reports, you'll see it, and you'll be blown away. Out of that $150 billion, what percentage of that do you think is purchased and spent by females? Now, I didn't say how much of the industry is being played by females. You know, that number is actually 50-50 when you include mobile.
I think you may have told me this before, and it's some insanely high number because they're the ones that go out and buy the games, and it's like probably like 70% or something like that.
Keep going. It's 80%. Okay. So think about that. 80% of all of the money that is spent in the video game industry is spent by women. Yet there are very, very, very few companies and products that are actually marketed to women. Because you'd say, well, why would I market Call of Duty to a woman? Because we're going to market it to the kid, and then the kid's going to get the mom to buy it for him for Christmas, right? And that's the way the industry goes, and I get it. But what if we had something that mom's going to like as well as the kids, and that she can play as well too, and that she can feel safe about it because there's no violent material, and all the games are $9.99 and less, and blah blah blah, and everything's exclusive and everything's high quality and this and that. Now, and you can hook up to 8 mobile, you can play 8 players out of the box for free, all that. What if that happened? Now you can start to see where we can start marketing in places that no one ever thought of before, or no one would ever want to, because it doesn't reach their demographic in the end. So we got a lot of tricks up our sleeve, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of folks with some of those partnerships we're going to put together, and hopefully announcing in June.
Okay. Tommy, I was one of the people that actually pre-ordered one of those Intellivisions. I'm interested to try it out. And
oh, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, well,
what were we going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, well, you know, if I'm ever in on the East Coast, I'll bring one with me so that you can play it before yours arrives at your front door.
All right, yeah. Well, let's see what happens with everything else going on. But sure, that'd be great. I would love it.
I know, right?
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. This was episode 10 of the Exposed podcast. Thank you, Tommy, and I'll see you guys real soon. Have a good one.
Thanks, Bridge.
Exposed.